Saw Palmetto is real medicine. It hits the exact same enzyme Finasteride hits. Same target. That part is not marketing. It's just 2,000 times weaker. That's not me being rude. That's a lab measurement. Same dish, same enzyme, both drugs side by side. So this isn't one of those videos where I tell you the supplement is a scam. It's something more annoying than a scam. It's a real drug. And it's priced like a strong one. Here's the idea to hold for the next 15 minutes. There are two different jobs here. Growing hair back and not losing any more. Everybody talks about them like they are one job. They are not. Saw Palmetto is bad at one and quietly decent at the other. There are 7 human studies on this stuff. 7 in the world. Total. I've read all of them. And in the biggest one, there's a row of the results table nobody ever quotes. That row is the only honest reason to take Saw Palmetto. We'll get to it about halfway through. This is Balding Out Loud. I don't sell hair products, I don't take supplement sponsorships, and I read the studies so you don't have to. Walk into any store and look at the hair supplements. Almost everyone has Saw Palmetto in it. Not biotin, not collagen. Saw Palmetto is the headline. And that isn't popularity. It's the only common supplement with a story that matches how hair loss works. Male pattern baldness isn't a vitamin problem. It's a hormone problem. There's an enzyme in your scalp. Long name, 5-alpha-reductase. Let's call it the converter. The converter takes testosterone and turns it into DHT. DHT shrinks your follicles. Follicles shrink, hair gets thinner, hair goes. That's the entire disease. One enzyme, one hormone. Converter DHT shrink. Finasteride works because it blocks the converter. That's the whole mechanism. So when a supplement company found a plant extract that also touches the converter, they had a real story. One that lines up with real biology. And the story is true. That's what makes this hard. The mechanism isn't made up. What's made up is the size of it. The thing in the capsule isn't a berry. It's an oil extract and it's mostly fatty acids. So look at the bottle. It says 320 milligrams. And then a phrase that looks like garble. Standardized to 85 to 95% fatty acids. That phrase isn't garble. It's the recipe. It's the exact extract the research used. If your bottle doesn't say those words, it isn't the thing that got studied. Here's the number I built this whole video around. Here's how scientists measure how strong a blocker is. You put the enzyme in a dish, add the blocker, and find out how much you need to shut down half of it. Less needed means stronger. Somebody ran that test on Saw Palmetto and on Finasteride. Same lab, clean comparison. Here's what came back. To shut down the same amount of enzyme, you need about 2,000 times more Saw Palmetto than Finasteride. By weight, 2,000. The raw numbers if you want them. Finasteride 1.5. Saw Palmetto 3,500. Same units, same dish, same day. Let me put that in something you can picture. Finasteride is one pill the size of a pinhead. 2,000 times that is a shot glass of powder. Every day. That's the gap. Now one bit of fairness. Finasteride is one pure molecule. Saw Palmetto is a mix, and only some of the mix is doing anything. So the real gap is smaller than 2,000. Fine, call it hundreds instead of thousands. Does that save it? No, hundreds of times weaker is still hundreds of times weaker. And they dose it at 320 milligrams, against a drug dosed at 1. That's not a supplement, that's slightly behind. That's a different weight class. So keep one word in your head for the rest of this video. Weak. And here's the thing about weak. Weak is terrible at growing hair back. Weak is not automatically terrible at holding. The oldest study people cite is Prager and colleagues, 2002. It ran in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. Credit on the design. Randomized. Double-blind. A placebo group. That's how it's supposed to be done. Here's the problem. 26 men signed up. 26. By the end, the treatment group was 10 men. 10. 6 of those 10 got graded better. In the placebo group, 1 man got better. 1 man out of 9. 6 guys versus 1 guy. That's it. That's the study. Written as percentages, that becomes 60% versus 11%. And 60 versus 11 sounds enormous. It isn't. It's 6 guys and 1 guy. Move 2 of them either way and the whole thing disappears. The authors called it a pilot for exactly that reason. And there's a second asterisk nobody mentions. The capsule wasn't Saw Palmetto. It was Saw Palmetto mixed with beta-sitosterol. That's a separate plant compound. So even if you believe the results, you couldn't tell which ingredient did it. That study cannot tell you saw Palmetto works because it never tested saw Palmetto alone. 6 men, 2 ingredients. That's the foundation. The big one. This is the study everything on the internet is built on. In 2012, a team in Italy ran saw Palmetto directly against Finasteride. Rossi and colleagues. Full citation on screen. Here's the design. 100 men ages 20 to 40 with mild to moderate hair loss. Split into 2 groups of 50. One group took 320 milligrams of saw Palmetto a day. The other 1 milligram of Finasteride. And they ran it for 2 years. 24 months. That's a genuinely long trial for this field, and I respect it. At the end, they compared standardized photos and graded every man from worse to better. Here are the results. On Finasteride, 68% of men got better. Call it 7 men in every 10. On saw Palmetto, 38% got better. Call it not quite 4 in 10. 68 versus 38. That's the headline, and it's the only line anybody quotes. The supplement people quote the 38. The drug people quote the gap. Both right, both missing the interesting part. But first, the honesty tax. This study was open label. The men knew which one they were taking, and the people grading the photos knew too. And think about what the outcome was. A human being looks at a picture and decides if it looks better. Expectation leaks into that. It always does. There is also no placebo group, so nobody knows what 38% means against doing nothing. Now, the part I promised you. That table didn't have 1 row. It had 3. Improved. Stayed the same. Got worse. Everybody stops at the first row. Let's do the second row. Stayed the same. I'm going to call it the holding row. Remember that because the holding row is the whole video. On Finasteride, 22% of men just held steady. Around 2 in 10. On saw Palmetto, 52%. Just over 5 in 10. 52 versus 22. That's the mirror image of the first row. Finasteride wins on growing hair back. Saw Palmetto wins on holding. Now the third row. Got worse. This is the one that got me. 10% on Finasteride. 10% on saw Palmetto. Dead identical. So all 3 rows in plain English. Over 2 years, Finasteride grew hair. Saw Palmetto mostly didn't. But the men on it didn't slide backwards either. And exactly the same number got worse on each. Growing back or holding. That's the split, and it runs through the rest of this video. Finasteride does both jobs. Saw Palmetto only does the second. Which is a completely different claim from the one on the bottle. The bottle says thicker, fuller hair. The data says probably no new hair. But the wheels didn't come off. One more detail. Finasteride moved the hairline and the crown. Saw Palmetto mostly moved the crown. Which tracks? The crown responds to anything anti-DHT. The hairline is the hardest ground there is. A weak blocker moves the easy area and leaves the hard one alone. Not a different drug. Quieter one. There's a saw Palmetto shampoo study everybody cites. Let me spoil the ending. It's evidence for using a decent shampoo. Saw Palmetto serums are everywhere, and this is the study on the box. It's Wessagowit and colleagues, 2016. Australian Dermatology Journal, citation on screen. 50 men enrolled, 49 finished. They used a saw Palmetto serum, lotion, and shampoo for 24 weeks, and researchers counted hairs in a marked patch on the crown. And the numbers went up. Terminal hairs, the thick ones that actually cover your head, went from about 430 at the start to about 750 by week 24. That sounds great. Here's why I can't hand it to you. First, there was no control group. Every man got the product. So we have no idea how much of that is the product. It could be seasonal hair cycling. It could be that men who join a hair study start treating their scalp better. Second, and this is the one that ends it for me. The product wasn't saw Palmetto. It was saw Palmetto plus 4 other things. Green tea, peony root, peptides, and pyric-toneolamine. Hold that last one. Pyric-toneolamine is an antifungal. It's what's in a lot of dandruff shampoos. It calms an inflamed scalp. And that helps hair all by itself with no DHT story required. So they tested 5 ingredients with no control group and put saw Palmetto's name on the bottle. The company that makes it paid for the study. That is not evidence for saw Palmetto. It's evidence for using a decent shampoo. That's 3 studies down. A tiny one, a big unblinded one, and a shampoo one. Has anybody added all of it up? Yes, 2020. A group of dermatology researchers pulled every saw Palmetto hair study in existence into one review. Evron and colleagues in skin appendage disorders. The title's great. Natural hair supplement. Friend or foe? They found 7 studies, 5 randomized trials and 2 cohort studies. That's the entire body of evidence for the most popular hair supplement on Earth. 7. Their summary sounds good. About 60% said their hair looked better. Hair count up around 27%. Hair loss stopped getting worse in about half of them. Now ask the question this whole video is training you to ask. Better than what? Compared to who? There's the problem. Most of those studies had no placebo group. Nobody knows what 60% means because nobody measured it against anything. And look at which half of that summary is the sturdy half, not the growing back, the holding. Even the friendly summary lands on the same side of the split. Then the authors did the thing I always look for. They told you not to trust their own summary. Their conclusion was that saw Palmetto may be an option and that we need proper large trials of it by itself. By itself. That phrase is doing heavy lifting because most of these studies mixed it with something else. So that review isn't a green light. It's a formal statement that after 20 years we still don't have the study. One clean trial. Large, blinded, placebo-controlled. Saw Palmetto on its own. Not one. Here's the part that changed my mind and I almost never see it mentioned. Saw Palmetto has been studied way more for prostate than for hair. Bigger trials, better funding, longer follow-up. And the prostate runs on the same converter. So what happened over there? 2011. A trial called CAMUS published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. 369 men. More than 3 times the hair study we just looked at. Properly blinded. Real placebo group. 72 weeks. And here's the good bit. They didn't just use the normal dose. They went normal, then double, then triple. 320 milligrams. Then 640. Then 960. Triple what's in a hair supplement. The result was nothing. No better than placebo at any of the 3 doses. The placebo group actually did a hair better. Now be careful here. Prostate symptoms are not hair. Different tissue, different outcome. You can't copy and paste that onto your scalp. But you should update on it. Somebody finally spent real money. A big study, properly blinded, dose escalating on this exact extract on the same hormone pathway. And the effect disappeared, even at triple dose. Remember the word I asked you to keep. Weak. This is what weak looks like when somebody finally goes looking with real money. That's the pattern you see over and over in medicine. Small unblinded studies show something. Big blinded ones show nothing. And the hair evidence for saw Palmetto sits entirely in the first category. I want you to picture something because I have been this guy. You're standing in the supplement aisle under that awful white light, turning a bottle around, looking for the words fatty acids. They're not there. What's there is a drawing of a leaf, the word complex, and a man with much better hair than you. And you think it's $14, how wrong can it be? Here's how wrong. Researchers have bought saw Palmetto supplements off the shelf and measured what's in them. In one analysis of 20 products, the fatty acid content ranged from almost the full amount down to essentially nothing. Not slightly low. Nothing. Mostly tinctures and dried powders, carrying traces of the compounds that are supposed to be the entire point. And that's the structural problem. A drug has to contain what the label says. A supplement doesn't. Nobody checks before it hits the shelf. So you're already taking something hundreds of times weaker than the drug. And there's a real chance your bottle holds a fraction of even that. If you're buying it anyway, and some of you are, there are 2 things to look for and 2 to run from. Look for the words 85 to 95% fatty acids, 320 milligrams, and a third-party testing seal. Run from dried berry powder and tinctures. Those are the ones the testing found empty. And run from the words proprietary blend. That means they won't tell you the number, and the reason is the number is small. 2 to look for. 2 to run from. My honest position. Disagree freely. If your goal is growing hair back, saw Palmetto is not the answer, and it isn't close. Minoxidil and a real DHT blocker are still the floor. The 2-year head-to-head said it in plain numbers. 68% versus 38%. And remember, nobody in that trial was blinded, which if anything tilted things towards saw Palmetto. It still lost by 30 points. That's the best case, and the best case loses badly. So don't take saw Palmetto instead of Finasteride and think it's a lateral move. It's a downgrade and you spend 2 years finding out. But I'm not going to tell you it's worthless because the holding row is real. Here's who it's genuinely reasonable for. You're early. Maybe a Norwood too, thinning at the crown, not the hairline. And you've decided against Finasteride. For your own reasons. Not because someone scared you. Early. Crown, not hairline. It is settled no on Finasteride. All three. If you're missing one, this isn't for you. For that guy, 320 milligrams of a properly standardized extract is defensible. It's cheap. It's well tolerated. No serious adverse events showed up in any of these trials. And the honest goal isn't growing hair back. It's holding. You're not buying hair. You're buying a maybe on the brakes. And if you do it, run it properly. Same phone, same spot, same light, first of every month for a year. If you're worse at 12 months, you have your answer, and you've lost a year and about $100. Decide that's okay before you start, not after. Here's what I want you to take away. Palmetto isn't fake. It hits the converter. That's more than anything else on the supplement shelf can say. It's just weak. Enormously weak. Weak enough that it won't grow your hair back. And maybe, just maybe, strong enough to help you hold. Growing back or holding. Two different jobs. The entire marketing industry around this stuff depends on you never separating them. That's the trick. Right mechanism, wrong magnitude. Somebody shows you a study proving a thing exists, then lets you assume it's big. Once you can see that, you'll see it everywhere. So next time somebody hands you a supplement study, ask two questions. Was anybody blinded? And how big was it next to the thing that actually works? Two questions. Most of this industry doesn't survive them. Everything I showed you is cited in the description, so go check my work. And tell me in the comments if I got something wrong. I'd rather be corrected than confident. So follow BaldingOutLoud. Hair loss science, no BS.